All right, as promised, the In-N-Out run is finished. Double, no onions, protein style, and a vanilla shake at the In-N-Out over in Inglewood. And I made it there walking from SoFi Stadium. And I'm happy to report that I have Ubered back safely to the hotel here, not far from the airport. That's the score, 49ers 31, Rams 14, in an absolutely resounding victory for the 49ers. The article is up. I hope that you all join me on The Athletic. Those of you who haven't subscribed yet, you better do so right now because Jimmy Garoppolo, Christian McCaffrey, and the 49ers plan to smother the Rams is outlined crystal clear with that article up on The Athletic. So I'm taking this link, I'm copying it, I'm putting it into the chat section. Go ahead and check it out. It is already in the description of this. You could probably sign up for a really good deal right now. There are always really good deals floating around. So if you go to that link, you can check it out because the 49ers have obliterated the Rams, and we are back live this time from a little bit more of a formal setting where we could really discuss the game. And we should probably fix the collar a little bit. There we go. It's a little bit better. Nice and relaxed. You got to have one of those buttons. I mean, we're in LA style right now. You got to have one of the buttons a little bit looser with the 49ers winning here in Southern California. So anyway, that's the piece. Christian McCaffrey, Jimmy Garoppolo, both there on the piece, on the picture. If you take a look at the full breadth of things, you might notice that Frank Gore has a presence in this room. Christian McCaffrey, easily the 49ers' best running back since Frank Gore. I mean, that was an awesome performance. Christian McCaffrey, in short, is a star. And as you all know, I covered him at Stanford. He did some insane things at Stanford. And one of the many crazy things that Christian McCaffrey did while he was at Stanford was throw a touchdown pass in the Pac-12 championship game against one of LA's teams, USC. And that was at Levi Stadium, of all places, in December of 2015. But that was, McCaffrey was the all-purpose yardage king. So he was the versatility king during college, right? Barry Sanders had the all-purpose yardage record. Christian McCaffrey went and shattered it by hundreds of yards, close to 1,000 yards in 2015 for the NCAA. 3,864 all-purpose yards for McCaffrey that season. And one game that was especially crazy was the Pac-12 championship game against USC in 2015. That was at Levi's. 49ers, Stanford actually used the 49ers locker room. And in that game, one of the highlight plays amongst many for Christian McCaffrey had 461 all-purpose yards in that game, mind you. One of the highlight plays was a touchdown pass that they threw. It was a trick. And on the trick play, McCaffrey hit the 49ers quarterback, Kevin Hogan, who actually recently worked out for the 49ers just a few weeks ago. But McCaffrey delivered that in college. Then he went to the NFL. Obviously, the 49ers didn't pick him in 2017. McCaffrey played for the Panthers. This week, Kyle Shanahan was furiously game planning in his office, had the door open to his office, and all the assistant coaches, they have offices down the hallway. And Kyle Shanahan was wondering, can Christian McCaffrey throw a pass? Because remember, the last time the 49ers beat the Rams at SoFi Stadium was in week 18 of last year. And Deebo Samuel, who was playing a lot of running back in that game, threw a touchdown pass. Jawan Jennings caught that touchdown pass. And Kyle Shanahan in his office this week yelled down the hallway. He said, "Hey, does anybody know if Christian McCaffrey can throw a pass?" Lo and behold, Brian Fleury knew the answer to that question, not because of the Stanford pass at Levi Stadium in 2015, but because of another one, a 53-yarder that Christian McCaffrey had thrown for the Carolina Panthers in the NFL. Brian Fleury, 49ers tight ends coach, emailed Kyle Shanahan tape of Christian McCaffrey throwing that pass, and that was the minute that an idea was formally executed onto actual X's and O's. It wasn't formally executed on the gridiron until today when McCaffrey threw the perfect pass to Brandon Ayuk. And that helped jumpstart the 49ers, but they still had more jumpstarting to do because two words really encapsulate what the 49ers are about when they're playing well. And those two words are complementary football. Complementary football means that the offense feeds off of the defense and the defense feeds off of the offense, and special teams helps everybody, doesn't ruin the party for the other two phases of the game. Sometimes the offense is going to have to drive the boat. Sometimes the defense is. Early in this season, I think we saw more defense driving the ship for the 49ers, but we never truly saw the complementary football that has made this team great in the past under Kyle Shanahan. 2019, yes, the defense was overpowering for much of the season, but they don't make it all the way to the Super Bowl without excellent performances from their offense. They had to have both. The formula to smother other teams was both. And you could see smother is in the headline of this article that I have up on The Athletic. Move over to 2021. More of a tightrope act for the 49ers, right? Not as easy in some of those wins, but they're still playing good defense and good offense. And against the Packers, they added some special teams into that in the playoffs. It was complementary football. We hadn't seen the 49ers deliver a true complementary finish to a game, right? Overpowering second half football where the offense and the defense were in a symbiotic relationship until the stretch run today. Keep in mind that the 49ers went into the locker room down 14-10 in this one, but they scored 24 unanswered points to finish this football game. I could not believe, speaking of, turning points, and a lot of people also were criticizing Kyle Shanahan this week. Well, why don't we criticize his counterpart in this game, Sean McVay? An abominably bad coaching decision from Sean McVay to sit on the football at the end of the half. The 49ers defense, let's talk about this. The 49ers defense was leaking oil for the first half of this game. They looked terrible against Kansas City. It was a historically bad performance for the 49ers defense against Kansas City, their worst performance since 2006 by the advanced metrics. Then they came out in the first half against the Rams. I know they got the 3-and-out to start the game, but, whatever there, because the Rams bled them with 2 touchdown drives in that first half. The Rams went 5 out of 6 on third down. The 49ers, they had massive coverage issues on those third downs. Jimmy Ward, just looked lost out there. Literally on one play, he was covering a zone where nobody resided for the Rams. He's only playing really with one arm because he's got the cast on the other arm. Didn't look comfortable covering either Cooper Kupp nor Allen Robinson. Robinson, by the way, showed up more for the Rams today than he did against the 49ers in week 4. There was a play where Charvarius Ward went out of the game. So then the 49ers had Ambry Thomas and Deommodore Lenoir in there, and the Rams went to work on them. It was brutal for the 49ers defense in the first half. It was an extension of the struggles against Kansas City. Meanwhile, the 49ers couldn't pass protect. They were off key on cadence at the line of scrimmage. Spencer Burford had a play where he was still stuck down in the 3-point stance while Aaron Donald ran right by him. And it was just some brutal miscommunications and some brutal lack of execution for the 49ers on both sides of the ball there in the first half, but especially the defense was looking terrible. And Sean McVay thought it'd be a good idea while the 49ers defense was reeling to just sit on the football. First he didn't call a timeout, right? That could have saved him about 30 seconds. So the Rams offense got the ball back with a minute left in the first half and a timeout. He could have had a minute 35 left at the end of that first half, but Sean McVay decided to forego that opportunity. But then even when he got the ball back with the 49ers defense reeling, with his offense riding a track record of success against the 49ers injured and reeling defense, Sean McVay decided to sit on the football. And that was an early Christmas present for the 49ers because they were getting the ball first in the second half, right? So they had a chance. They got the chance to lap the Rams, and they failed. The 49ers had a punt on the first drive of the second half. But to me, the turning point was when McVay was too afraid to challenge a 49ers defense that he had run over to that point. Oh boy, camera went off. Hold on. For some reason, we're having some camera issues. So just give me 1 second here. We're going to fix this. We'll get this camera back on. Turned off on us. So I'm going to make this big screen while we figure out this camera. One man banding it right here. Yeah, it's some kind of error message on my screen. Tough camera situation here. All right, I believe, yep, we are back in business. Just give me a second and we'll get this sucker going. Hopefully it doesn't do that to me again, but all right, boom. Here we go. Back in business. Here we go. Gonna pop this back up on the screen. And it's like we never left. Framing's a little bit different there, but we're good. Anyway, that was just abominable coaching by Sean McVay. You have a 49ers defense that is completely reeling, and Sean McVay steps in there and says, "Oh, wait, I'm going to let them off the hook. I'm going to give them an early Christmas present." And at that moment, I knew the Rams were scared for a reason I couldn't comprehend. And the 49ers came out and started dominating in the second half. Now, that first drive didn't work out. I think the officials missed an obvious personal foul, late hit against Christian McCaffrey on that long run. Would have put the 49ers in field goal range. Instead, they punted, but it was their second drive of the second half where they went 11 plays and 88 yards to take control of the game. And Jimmy Garoppolo was dealing with a lot of sketchy pass protection in the first half where the 49ers were really unable to consistently form a pocket around him. So he's there getting battered. He's taking big hits. And credit to him, he hung in there. Yeah, he got a little bit lucky. There was one that Jalen Ramsey should have picked off. He wasn't on the same page with George Kittle. But in the second half, once the 49ers fixed their communication issues up front, and Spencer Burford talked about it, he said, we just had to tweak a couple small things. And as soon as the protection was set, the 49ers took a good Rams defense to school in the second half. And it just shows us that Jimmy Garoppolo is a good QB who's been dealing with sketchy pass protection for years. And when you give Jimmy Garoppolo the appropriate protection, even if you don't, he's been efficient. But if you give him really good protection, he's lights out. And that's what we saw today for Jimmy Garoppolo. 21 of 25. The 84.5% completion percentage was the fifth highest all time in 49ers franchise history in a game where a quarterback has thrown at least 20 passes. Steve Young has spots number 1 and 2. John Brody has spot number 3. Joe Montana has spot number 4. What you saw today from Jimmy Garoppolo ranked 5th. So when you protect Jimmy Garoppolo, good things happen. The problem for the 49ers is that they've, I think, skimped a little bit on the pass protection. But more than that, this is just part of Kyle Shanahan's formula. He wants an offensive line that run blocks better than a pass blocks, because that's what he's going to focus on. And he's going to try to walk this tightrope. And if he could successfully set up play action, if he can successfully play downhill, if he can get a lead, then he feels that his offensive line is not going to face straight drop back scenarios where they have to anchor and pass protection. And he feels that they're going to be all right. In the first half, they weren't, right? McGlinchey got beat. Burford, didn't know the snap count on that one play at right guard. It was brutal there for a while in the first half with those protection issues. It wasn't, in my opinion, an NFL caliber line, but Jimmy Garoppolo prevailed through that. He hung in there just as he has for the 49ers over the past several seasons. And then when the protection finally set itself, when the game started moving downhill for the 49ers after a lot of hard work, after McVay gave him the early Christmas present in the second half, he was excellent. Garoppolo, second half, 10 of 12, 11.4 yards per attempt. 2 touchdown passes, sensational touchdown passes. One to Christian McCaffrey. It was his 5th read. I mean, they talk about seeing the field the same way. McCaffrey sees the field as a quarterback. Garoppolo obviously does too, but it seemed that these two had known each other forever. And I thought it was fitting because Emmanuel Sanders works for the NFL Network now. He was in the house, right? He's got the studio right next door to the SoFi Stadium for the NFL show. And Emmanuel Sanders and Jimmy Garoppolo, if you remember back to the 2019 trade, they found cohesion really quickly to the point where it only took them a little over a week. Emmanuel Sanders shows up, plays the game against Carolina, 4 catches. But the next Thursday, which was Halloween night, which was this week of last year, Halloween night, Emmanuel Sanders made that deep out catch from Jimmy Garoppolo where Garoppolo put the ball there before he had made his break. And we're like, whoa, how did these two develop the cohesion that they did in such a short amount of time? Well, I'm saying the same thing about Jimmy Garoppolo and Christian McCaffrey now. How did they develop the cohesion that they did in such a short period of time? To me, that just shows that both of these guys are football players. They're able to connect on an off-schedule play where McCaffrey's the 5th read. And then McCaffrey's able to score a touchdown on the 49ers. It was the 49ers' next drive where all of the blocking assignments are blown up. They don't go well, but McCaffrey, he's so wiggly, so shifty, so explosive. He's got such good vision that he squeezes into the end zone anyway. And then Garoppolo finds George Kittle for the touchdown that absolutely seals the game late after he hits Ross Dwelley with the goal ball. Dwelley, of course, playing in Kyle Juszczyk's role, that fullback role, seamless for Dwelley in Juszczyk's role, seamless pass for Garoppolo. So McCaffrey's a star. Garoppolo's a good quarterback. What else can you want from this 49ers offense? Oh, I know what. You can want Deebo Samuel to be back out on the field. And they're going to have Deebo. They're going to have Juwan Jennings after the bye week. That is the full expectation. In fact, this is maybe the biggest news coming out of this game. Kyle Shanahan gets up there at his post-game news conference and goes, that he always starts them by reading off the injury report, right? And he gets up there and he goes, I have no new injuries to report. This is awkward, but there are no new injuries to report. So I repeat, no new injuries for the 49ers. And that, I mean, if you're talking about wind at their sails, they're entering the bye week. They're 4-4 now, 3 wins over NFC West teams. Boy, that's big news to me. No new injuries for the 49ers. And you're talking about getting Elijah Mitchell back. You're talking about obviously getting Deebo Samuel, Juwan Jennings back. Jason Verrett might be ready to go for the first time this season on grass against his former team, the Chargers, on Sunday Night Football. I mean, the 49ers are rolling in exciting times now, and all it took was one complimentary football performance in the second half against the Rams. Now, speaking of the defensive key, 49ers defense allowed only 2.3 yards per play in the second half. And in the first half, the allowance on yards per play wasn't a lot. The Rams were nickel and diming them. It was like 5.1, but 5 of 6 on third downs. The 49ers couldn't get off the field when they had to get off the field. But they started getting off the field in the second half because DeMeco Ryans made big adjustments. He got that screen game lockdown for the Rams. 49ers realized you can't just rush the passer carte blanche. They did this against Kansas City and didn't pay off. They got burnt by it too. You got to be, sometimes the opponent's going to go quick release, not let you rush the passer, especially when you sacked their quarterback 7 times and pressured him 35 times in the first meeting. They're going to try to do some stuff that throws your defense off. And the Rams did that, but the 49ers were ready to counter in the second half. Now, this is where teamwork comes in, right? The offense fueled the defense so clearly in this game. Let the defense play downhill, and that defense will roll downhill like a bowling ball. The defense has to play uphill. Offense made the defense do that a bit against Kansas City, right? Defense won't look as good. Now, I firmly put most of the blame of that Kansas City game on the 49ers defense. Obviously, it was a historically bad performance. But you can never completely disentangle both units of the game. They have to work hand in hand, especially with the 49ers formula. And that is what I wrote about in this piece. So those of you joining right now, this is up on The Athletic. Why don't you make sure you subscribe to The Athletic? I will put it up on a banner right here. Go ahead and check out the comment section. And that is where the article is. I'm going to start taking some comments, some questions. Hopefully everybody's doing well. Maybe play a video or two. Actually, let's see if this is available right now. Oh, yeah. Let's play this one. Hold on. It's playing some commercials, but then we're going to put it up with some audio. So I had a friend who was in the stands of the game today, and he sent me some videos so we could play some here. And they obviously have some audio too. Why? It needs to stop. Okay, here we go. I am going to put this up here. Make it big. All right, there we go. Maybe put myself down in the corner. And let's see what it looked like from the stands at SoFi. It was that takeover from the 49ers. Garoppolo to Kittle. You could see all that red there. 70% 49ers fans. Crazy. That's my estimate. Here's McCaffrey's big run to set up that touchdown. And then finally, you're going to see Christian McCaffrey's plunge into the end zone. This is where the 49ers missed a bunch of those blocking assignments. But McCaffrey made it happen anyway. And the place went nuts. Place went absolutely nuts. So that was from the crowd. I didn't take the video. I got a hold of that video, permission to use it, and there you go. That's what it looked like at SoFi Stadium today. So I wanted to show you some of the highlights of what it was like there. I mean, it was like that last year too, as far as the crowd went. Just a ton of red. They're selling 49ers merchandise outside. I was joking that the street vendors knew the market, and they knew that there were going to be a lot of 49ers fans here. And boy, the team sure did come through for them in this game. The 49ers are Super Bowl contenders because of what we saw in the second half. It's about how you finish, not how you start, as long as you make the tournament, right? And right now, the 49ers are in good position to make the tournament. They just finished the front 8. They have the back 9 coming up after the bye week, which is very opportunely timed so they could start getting healthy here. And what they showed us in the second half of this 8th game should be a blueprint for what they need to show in the second half of the season. Today should be considered a microcosm of the 49ers season-long blueprint. Shaky first half of the season, right? Shaky first half of this game. Then you want a lights-out second half of the season. They had a lights-out second half of this game. You want that offense and the defense on both sides of the football to be fueling and complementing each other if you're the San Francisco 49ers moving forward. Look what happened to them last week. I mean, talent, I wrote about this. I'm going to put this back up on the screen. This is my article on The Athletic. The first line here, you could see the first part of these articles before you got to subscribe. So make sure you do subscribe, but you just read the start. The 49ers are oozing with talent, even when they're shorthanded. That much is clear, especially after that talent, spearheaded by new acquisition Christian McCaffrey's dazzling show, put the Rams in a headlock and ripped off 24 straight points to fuel Sunday's 31-14 rout. But it's not all about talent. Look no further than the prior week when the 49ers actually had even more star power at their disposal, but still lost by 3 scores to the Chiefs. It's about how talent congeals. That's the be-all, end-all. And that's exactly what was on Trent Williams' mind in the victorious locker room. The 1,500 more words after that, you should go and check it out. The article is linked in the description here. But it's about how talent comes together. The 49ers have a powerful roster. It got even more powerful. It's disgustingly powerful when you consider that Christian McCaffrey and Deebo Samuel soon are going to be on the field at the same time. And you have Nick Bosa on the other side of the football. And, this is before you even get to guys like Brandon Ayuk and Jeff Wilson, who did some good stuff today. There's a disgusting amount of power on this 49ers roster. But that doesn't mean anything. Doesn't mean anything unless that talent congeals, unless they play as a team. And playing as a team, that's this right here. That's complementary football. And we haven't seen the 49ers finish a game with powerful complementary football yet this season until today. That was today. And that is why the 49ers are Super Bowl contenders, because of what we saw in the second half. They have the ability to squeeze the life out of the defending Super Bowl champions, which they did today with a shorthanded roster on the road. Yeah, on the road, I get it. They had home field advantage. Oh, no, we lost again. This is probably going to be an issue tonight. I don't know what's wrong with the camera. So what we're going to do is make this big again, and just bear with me as I turn this sucker back on. Nobody leave. It will all be good, I promise. We have so my phone is trying to alert me of something, which is why it's a little bit of a struggle. Turn this back on. There we go. All right, we are back in business. Just got to reset the tripod and we'll be good. You guys are going to have to remind me what I was talking about. No, I remember. We're talking about complementary football for the San Francisco 49ers. We will be able to resume our discussion right about now. How's that? It worked. And you guys didn't leave. Good. Says still have the same viewer count. Anyway, 49ers are Super Bowl contenders because of what we saw in the second half of this football game. And that, complementary formula, that has served them so well in 2019. It served them so well on the stretch run of 2021. But it's elusive. It's hard to, it's easier said than done. But what happened this week is that Jimmy Garoppolo actually and the captains held a team meeting where they talked about complementary football and how they can ride that and how they have ridden that to great success in the past. So Garoppolo had 2 things to tell the team this week. He said, hey, he had the team meeting with all the leaders and Trent Williams and those guys. That was about complementary football. And the 49ers, I think, responded to that. They fed off of each other as a team. But 2, Garoppolo talked about coming out hot in the second half, because that's something the 49ers offense especially hadn't been able to do yet. And that's something that they did today. Again, that big McCaffrey run at the start of the second half that should have been a personal foul at the end, that showed the 49ers mentality in this game. They came out ready to play in the second half. That run was huge, but they punted there because the officials missed that call. But then it was 3 straight touchdown drives. It was Garoppolo finding Kittle on that last one, McCaffrey with the run that I just showed you, and the fifth read. We'll call that the fifth read play. Garoppolo to Christian McCaffrey in the end zone. Those three drives coincided with the defense regaining life, and everything roared the life of the 49ers. They played as a team. And when they play as a team, they are even more productive than the sum of their individual parts. That is where this starts to turn into a thing of beauty for the 49ers, when everything turns into a collective, sum that's greater than the sum, a performance that's greater than the sum of the individual parts instead of less than the sum of the individual parts last week. All right, now that we have everything up there, let's go here to some questions. Hopefully this camera stays on for at least the next few minutes while we talk. We're 25 minutes into this thing. Any questions, toss them up there. There's no way I've kept up with everything that's been up there, so bear with me. Bear with me. Questions. Let's go. It's not a question, but Harold shouts out to the offensive line. Yeah, second half, they showed up. I mean, why don't we talk about this? Why don't we talk about who the Rams are and what the 49ers exposed in this game? Why don't I tilt this down a little bit too? There, it looks better. Why don't we... Let's answer a question first, then we'll go back to that, because I'm going to go to my incorrect 49ers versus Rams prediction. I didn't believe in the 49ers as much as I probably should have believed. I didn't think they're going to showcase this kind of complementary football without Deebo Samuel, but Christian McCaffrey really ended up being, him and Garoppolo just played like superstars today. But where was I? Right here. Any insights as to why the defense was so much more effective this week? Well, they weren't effective in the first half. They got butchered in the first half. 5 of 6 third downs to the Rams. Sean McVay let the 49ers off the hook by not pushing the ball at the end of the first half. That bought the 49ers some breathing room. And then the best defense is often a good offense. And the fact that the 49ers offense turned on the Jets in the second half fueled the defense. That bought them runway to make adjustments. And you give credit to DeMeco Ryans for saying, we got to defend these screen passes. They shut down the screen game. And when they shut down the screen game, they had that momentum. The Rams didn't have what they needed anymore. Rams are better than week 4. Better offensive line. They had made a couple shifts. Allen Robinson, actually was beating people downfield, beat Jimmy Ward there in the first half. No question the Rams were better. They were in position to not get completely destroyed by the 49ers D-line in this game, which also didn't have Eric Armstead. But despite the fact that the Rams came out so hot, the 49ers, they used that complementary football to fuel their defense. Everybody talked about the defense leading the way in the early part of the season. Yeah, that was true. I guess in a game against Denver, that was true. And against Seattle, the 49ers played a good game on both sides of the ball in the first half especially. But, today the offense was the locomotive that pulled the train for the San Francisco 49ers. Any chance that Womack gets serious playing time opposite Mooney? Well, not if Jason Verrett shows up. In a dream world, Jason Verrett starts against the Chargers, or at least makes his return and takes over that starting corner job, and Womack is depth, and maybe Womack develops into your slot guy, and then Jimmy Ward eventually moves back into a safety role, because right now it's not ideal in the 49ers secondary. They need some time to lick their wounds in the secondary. I think it's obvious. Complementary football and today's performance helped mask a lot of things in the second half, but the first half was ugly. But I think that Womack is a future project. Maybe he can deliver in a pinch now, looking at him more as a slot guy in the near term. But Jason Verrett is looming as a return for the 49ers, and that would be big, big news for this football team. Rob asks, David, with Kyle's offensive game plan, how does it evolve? How it will evolve with all these weapons? It feels like the 49ers started to see some of that today with the halfback option. The halfback option is a trick play. I think it's simple. I think you run the same scheme that you have, and Deebo Samuel's going to come back, and you can keep on running it. But have Christian McCaffrey, and there's an outlet against pressure, an underneath outlet against pressure from Christian McCaffrey at all times. So they did today. Is get it to his hand. The defense has to account for that, because the guy is so good after the catch. He's so bouncy. It's going to open up space for everybody else. George Kittle was saying, I've never been as open as I was today. And that's before Deebo Samuel is back. So that's how you run this offense. It evolves because the weakness against Kansas City, because they hadn't really schemed it in yet, McCaffrey only played 22 snaps. The weakness is what you didn't have good blitz outlets. I talked about this on Friday. You didn't have good option routes. The Jimmy Garoppolo interception, yes, he should have thrown that away or taken the sack, but there was no good option on the play. The scheme has to be set up to make Garoppolo look better, and today it absolutely was set up in that fashion. All right, let's see. Drake Jackson not putting up pressure. I mean, this wasn't a pressure kind of game for the 49ers. I mean, it was quick release for Matt Stafford. It was screen passes and all that. This wasn't the game where they were going to get pressure. This was the game where they had to tackle, defend the screens, be disciplined on the back end, and that was the adjustment that they made in the second half. All right. I don't think that Jimmy Ward is not. I don't think he's lost not playing in his normal position. I think that Jimmy Ward is obviously not at home right now in that position. I don't think it's his best one, but it makes the most sense for the 49ers because he's a good cover guy. What the problem is, he's playing with a cast on one hand. They've got a logjam at safety. That's the thing. Back to this. No new injuries for the 49ers. That is so unspeakably big for this football team coming out of this game. It's hard to believe. Now, they're not out of the woods yet. Kyle Shanahan's going to be talking tomorrow. We're going to have to see what he has to say tomorrow, first of all, because sometimes the day after, you're going to have some guys that come in with some bruises. So that's big, but it is time for the 49ers to lick their wounds over the bye week, and it looks like they've gotten away they have gotten away here without anything else serious added to the injury toll for this football team. But, I mean, big thing here, 49ers are truly set up for the back nine of this season. The back 9 games of this 2022 season have to be like the second half of this game. They have to start firing on all cylinders on a consistent level, and if they do, they are right in the thick of this thing at 4-4. I'm going to go over some stats here. Then probably going to call it a night. I have to go watch the game tape. So we're going to have another, we'll talk about this more as I have more to talk about because I want to see kind of specific replays of stuff. The Rams, they only averaged 2.7 per carry. First and foremost, the 49ers stopped the run. Their struggles came in coverage in the first half. They couldn't stop the Rams on those third downs. They were broken in those situations. But McVay let him off the hook when they were reeling, and then the 49ers, it's like giving the monster in a horror movie added life, not killing him. And McVay let the 49ers off the hook on, the eve of Halloween. McVay let that monster live, and then that monster came and burned him in the second half, ate him alive. If you look at defense, 49ers had Warner with a key sack. That was D'Amico Ryans dialing it up. Nick Bosa had his 8th sack of the season. 49ers gave up 3 sacks on the other end. Greg Gaines, 1. Leonard Floyd, 2. But all of that happened in the first half. 49ers figured it out in the second half when they started clicking. 7.1 yards per play for the 49ers, only 4 yards per play for the Rams, and only 2.3 yards per play for the Rams in the second half. Garoppolo, 21 of 25, 235 yards, 2 touchdowns. An awesome performance from him. I mentioned earlier, Ayuk, 6 for 81. That was big. Warner led the way, 12 tackles for the 49ers on the defensive end. But they really snuffed out that Rams run game. Impressive stuff for the 49ers who are set up for the back 9. We talk about the next 2 games, the Chargers on Sunday Night Football. And then after that, the 49ers will go to Mexico City to play the Cardinals. So they have another division game coming up against the only NFC West team they haven't yet played. That's the Arizona Cardinals. But first, it's an AFC West game against Justin Herbert, and the Chargers. 49ers will try to move to 5-4 out of the bye. And then that game's really big against the Arizona Cardinals in Mexico City. But, I mean, if they play the way they did today, you could see the 49ers moving to 6-4 really quickly. If they play the way they did against Kansas City, you could see them moving to 4-6 really quickly. We're at a hinge point, right? Today was big because their playoff probability is now 66% or so, according to DVOA. A loss would have put it down at 33%. This was pivotal in terms of outlook. But now the 49ers need to follow through with consistency over the back 9. That's why I talk about the back 9. They finished the first 8 games. They have the back 9 coming up. Everybody check out that article up on the screen. That's what I have for you guys. Make sure you sub to The Athletic. Check that one out. I'm on Twitter at Lombardi himself. Before this game, I talked about running back screens can be excellent pressure mitigators. Guess what they did? They ran outlets and screens to Christian McCaffrey. That was big. That was one of the key points that we outlined this week, and the 49ers executed it perfectly. We had some keys. Garoppolo must successfully perpetuate the quick release game. I think he did a good job there. I have to get the snap to release. I haven't gotten the snap to release yet. In fact, I could probably find it right now. Why don't we check out the snap to release in this game for Jimmy Garoppolo? It was 2.3 and 2.4 seconds in recent wins of the Rams and 3.1 in losses. Now, it might be a little bit higher in this game because they started pass protecting well in the second half. And remember the touchdown to McCaffrey? That was fifth read. It was a long time between snap and release for Jimmy Garoppolo. So the numbers of this game may actually be higher just based, anecdotally on what I watched. But I can find it right now. What was Jimmy's snap to release in this football game? Time to throw. 2.7. They beat the Rams with Jimmy Garoppolo at 2.7 snap to release. That's the highest number at which they've beaten the Rams in recent years. Definitely pumped up a little bit by how long he held the ball for that fifth read touchdown to Christian McCaffrey and a couple other plays. They went deep there to Ross Dwelly. But he did perpetuate the quick release game well. I mean, he went 21 to 25. Averaged good, I think, 9 yards an attempt this game. I mean, Jimmy Garoppolo was really good. Key two was big, and the 49ers really executed this. Pass to set up the run if needed. Oh, they needed that. The Rams were running overload fronts there in the second half. And the 49ers needed to pass out of it. On the 11-play, 88-yard drive, Garoppolo went 7 of 7. So they passed out of it, and they punished the Rams for running those overload fronts. Sometimes you have to do it. They had to do it in week 4 early. They had to do it today in the second half, and they didn't. Don't fall for McVay eye candy. In the first half, I thought the 49ers did a bit. In the second half, they didn't fall for the eye candy that McVay tried to recreate. The Chiefs did it against the 49ers. Then the Rams did it. And then, key 5, it doesn't matter if you're a star, McCaffrey, or a depth piece, Kevin Givens, step up and make plays. And no question mark there. That's a mistake. There shouldn't be a question mark. Did Christian McCaffrey ever make some plays? Christian McCaffrey, I'm going to put this down here, became the first 49er ever to rush for a touchdown, to throw for a touchdown, and to catch a touchdown in the same game. Jerry Rice never did it. Jerry threw for a touchdown, I remember, against Atlanta. I believe that was a Christmas Eve game back in 1995, 96. I think it was 1995. But never did what Christian McCaffrey did today. Since the merger, it's only happened 4 times, including what we saw from McCaffrey. So he's an absolute star. He made it happen. Big plays win games. It's ridiculous to me. And hopefully we could drop kick this narrative into the sun. The narrative that anybody could just come and play running back for Kyle Shanahan. You just pick up anybody off the street, they'll be fine. Now, this is what it looks like when you plug star power into the running back position. Legitimate, bona fide star power. It is transcendent. It takes it to the next level. And now you can see why Shanahan has always been trading up for these running backs. I mean, he might not have picked the right guys, but the reason he wants star power there is because it does this. Christian McCaffrey puts the 49ers offense into overdrive, and that's before Deebo Samuel is even part of the show. We'll see Deebo back probably after the bye week. Huge, huge stuff for the 49ers. Big time developments for this football team. Oh, man. A lot of comments. Thank you for everybody checking in here on the comment section. I'm not going to try to answer all too many questions. Just wanted to go through some of the initial ones that I saw. I mean, as you can see, these things get a little out of hand. We get hundreds and hundreds of comments. So do my best. Thank you to Harold. I appreciate you. That's one that I just saw there. You guys are awesome. It's fun. It's fun when you join the community here. You check out the articles on The Athletic. We talk about them here. Social media could be a great spot to discuss some football. Well, Christian McCaffrey might be an exception. You got to, at some point, you have to get the star players. The 49ers bet a lot of draft picks on Christian McCaffrey. Really paid off today, right? If there's one, thing that the 49ers, the 2 things, it's still the interior defensive line and the offensive line. God, there's still too many miscommunications that make you nervous there. You saw McGlinchey get backed down by Chris Jones last week. Those are still weaknesses for the 49ers. But if they play their brand of complementary football, they do scheme around them. And they've got to play it more often than they don't. They have to play these games downhill. Yep, Christian McCaffrey is everything. QB, wide receiver, and running back. I fly to the Rams game. I flew here. I'm staying by LAX to answer that question. All right, guys, been going for 40 minutes. It's time for me to watch some game tape. What an awesome game for the 49ers. Super Bowl contenders because they showed some complimentary football to beat the Rams 31-14. Thank you, everybody, for joining. We'll have more after I watch the tape, all right? A lot more content coming. Thanks again, guys. We'll talk to everybody soon. Bye now.